It would be nice to add some postseason memories to that little clip, bringing us back out of commercial. It's been a while since the Redbirds have been in the postseason, at least for their standards. Welcome back to the Morning Huddle on Sports Radio 92.3 FM and 1450 AM as we broadcast live from the Green Audi Studios. My name is Darin Pritchett. Let's dig into some Cardinals off-season baseball conversation with Redbird Rants Josh Jacobs. He is the host of the Deal in the Cards podcast. Josh and the crew are a great follow on Twitter X if you are a St. Louis Cardinal fan. Josh, it is great to catch up with you once again. How are you today?
I'm great, Darin. I've been looking forward to chatting, and there's plenty to talk about Cardinals land right now as Chaim looks to, like you said, make those postseason memories come back again in St. Louis.
There's nothing really happening right now, at least for us to notice, but behind the scenes, it feels like Chaim Bloom is taking a lot of phone calls at this particular time about players on this current St. Louis Cardinals roster. And I want to start with Brendan Donovan because I think for some Cardinal fans, they might be saying, wait a minute, Brendan Donovan was the Cardinals all-star last year. He's a guy we love to watch play. He's the guy with a 350 on-base percentage. Why would the Cardinals want to trade this guy? How would you explain to them why it would be possibly in the best interest for the future of the Cardinals to move Donovan?
Yeah, and I don't blame anyone for wanting to keep Brendan Donovan. I'd love to see Brendan Donovan continue in a Cardinal uniform as well. We're actually having Donnie on our podcast on Tuesday just to raise money for a charity he's a part of. And I was talking to his agent the other day. He's good to go. He's ready. But, honestly, he might be on a different team by Tuesday. But Chaim Bloom at this point sees the mess that the Cardinals organization has become. I don't think it's like Colorado Rockies or Chicago White Sox bad, but they're clearly not the kind of perennial National League contender that they used to be. No one needs to... It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that, right? They've missed the playoffs consistently the last 3 years. They haven't won a postseason game since 2019 or a postseason series, frankly. And so when you look at their roster right now, Brendan Donovan is going to be 29 soon. He's got 2 years of team control left. And so the timeline Chaim Bloom's looking at right now to contend, you're probably looking more 2027, 2028 to really get back to being a legit contender. And by that point, Brendan Donovan's probably a free agent, or you've had to give him a massive deal, which he will get a lot in free agency. I can't wait to see what that number looks like. And so for them, there's upwards of 20 teams in the league interested in acquiring Brendan Donovan. And so behind the scenes right now, Chaim Bloom's fielding offers. He's almost trying to create a bidding war per se amongst teams around them and see what is the best possible offer they can get for Brendan Donovan and then pull the trigger. I would assume there's a high probability that they're going to make a move in the next few weeks or so with Brendan Donovan. But if they don't get the offer they like, they are not afraid to hold on to him and wait till later. I see an extension is extremely unlikely at this point, which is super unfortunate. Brendan Donovan is the exact kind of player you want to raise up in an organization and keep around long term. But this is where the Cardinals are at right now, and it forces them to make really tough decisions.
Josh, if Brendan Donovan is traded, who are the top contenders to be the opening day starting second baseman for the Redbirds?
Yeah, I think at this point, J.J. Weatherhold is primed and ready to be that guy. I could definitely see him at third base as well if they want to try out Nolan Gorman at second as well. They tried Gorman at third base this past year and did not go well defensively, and he's shown some promise as a defensive second baseman. Thomas J.C. could fill in there as well because among Brendan Donovan, Nolan Gorman's also a name that teams have called about. I'm sure we'll talk about Nolan Arenado, but he's a guy who's also looks like he's on his way out. And so all he was kind of asked the other day about who's his opening day starter, who's his closer, who's his second baseman, and all he's just kind of throwing his hands up right now being like, we'll see, because there's a lot of roster fluidity and influx right now. And by the time camp comes around, there's probably going to be one, maybe two names written in stone, and that's Mason Winn at shortstop and J.J. Weatherhold somewhere on the field. Alec Burleson will probably be around, so whether that's first base, left field, DH, who knows? Even a guy like Ivan Herrera, is he going to be an outfielder, a DH, a catcher? There's so many questions left unanswered right now for this Cardinals team, but considering they're in a talent acquisition phase and not necessarily trying to figure out how the pieces fit together, I don't think they're overly concerned about figuring out where people are going to play at this point.
I was able to go to one game in Memphis last summer, and it was a game in which J.J. Weatherhold had the day off, of course. Perfect timing. But as you watched Weatherhold develop this year, what are the traits that are going to make Cardinal fans very excited about Weatherhold for hopefully the next decade?
Yeah, and I don't blame any Cardinal fans right now for feeling like, well, we've had Jordan Walker and Dylan Carlson and Nolan Gorman before, but I'm not here to guarantee you J.J. Weatherhold's going to be a very good big league player or star, but this is a different kind of talent we're talking about here. The Cardinals drafted him 7th overall and honestly got lucky to get him at the 7th overall pick. He should have been going into the draft season as the consensus #1 overall pick and slid because of a weird hamstring thing. He's been completely healthy since then. This guy has elite bat-to-ball skills to go with even better swing decisions. And swing decisions doesn't necessarily sound like a fun thing, but having the ability to know what your pitch is and what you can do damage with, Weatherhold takes powerful swings at pitches in the zone that he knows he can do damage with to get doubles, triples, home runs. And when he doesn't, he gets a pitch outside the zone or he needs to protect the 2 strikes, he's not afraid to dink and dunk the other way to get on base. So he's going to be a high average guy, high on base guy with sneaky power. In his prime, this could be a 25, maybe 30 home run hitter. That's probably pushing it a little bit, but he's going to be at the very top of the league in on base, batting average, driving in runs, getting on base, doing all the little things right. I think he's like a souped up Brendan Donovan, where, again, Brendan Donovan's an all-star this year, but J.J. Weatherhold could be like 20%, 30% better than what we've seen for Brendan Donovan. I've seen Chase Utley as a comp for him. Again, that's a borderline Hall of Famer right there. So let's be careful getting too excited about it, but that's the kind of talent we're talking about. Baseball America, MLB.com, any outlet you're looking at for prospects right now, J.J. Weatherhold is a top 3 or top 5 prospect for a reason. Josh
Jacobs from the Fansided Network, Redbird Rants. You can follow Josh on Twitter at Josh Jaco98. That's JACO98. We're talking Cardinal baseball with Josh here on the Morning Huddle as he joins us on the Springfield Clinic Orthopedics Hotline. What are the pros and what are the cons of having Lars Nootbaar on the 2026 Cardinal roster?
It's a great question. If you had asked me in July, and I think we did talk about this in July, that Lars Nootbaar seemed like the odd man out. But if you haven't been catching up with the Cardinals this offseason listening, then he's had double heel surgery going in October, and so that's kind of complicated his trade value and what he means around the league. There are teams interested. Like there's a report about the New York Mets calling in yesterday. There are plenty of other teams that are interested. But at this point, a team would probably be buying low on Lars Nootbaar, knowing that he's more talented than what he's shown so far. So for a Chaim Bloom front office that's looking to maximize the talent they have, and they still have 2 years of control of Nootbaar, when you're talking about Donovan, he just came off an all-star season. This makes perfect sense to trade him. When you look at a Nootbaar, you're talking about coming off a career worst year in production and then coming off double heel surgery that he may or may not be ready for opening day. So it sounds like the Cardinals want to hold on to Nootbaar at least for the first half, let him get on the field, let him get healthy, hopefully get back to producing, and then flip that bat at the deadline rather than sell now. Because the cons, again, of selling now is they're probably not really getting much for him at all. And, we've seen plenty of Cardinal outfielders go to another organization and start to really find themselves. And I don't think Chaim Bloom wants that to happen again here.
How would you define a successful season for Jordan Walker?
So another great question. At this point, it's hard to remember, but I think we have to keep in mind, even as someone who I'm very much questioning, Jordan Walker is going to be an impactful regular at this point. But you look back at his rookie year, he comes up, he has a hitting streak. Beneath the hood, it wasn't actually a great result. He was kind of getting pretty lucky there. They sent him down to Memphis. He worked on some of that launch angle stuff. He comes back up. And at 20 years old, this guy's 20% above league average, which is puts him in rare company for a guy that age. From June to September, it was 400 at-bats. He was among the better hitters in all baseball at 20 years old. That's really hard to do in this league. And so it tells me he has the talent, he has what it takes in there, but there's a lot of mechanical flaws right now that need worked through. And I think a lot of it's mental as well, where he just the loss of confidence at this point, trying to shake things up and change things up. It seems like especially the second half of last year, Walker became very open to making some changes that maybe the Cardinals hitting staff have been trying to work with him on for a while and been a little bit resistant to. And so I think at this point, you just need to see some kind of progress, right? And I think, yes, better numbers on the field would be great, but ultimately what you want from Jordan Walker is to be a big, powerful, middle-of-the-order bat. And so he needs to start figuring out how to launch the ball into the outfield, over the fence, get extra base hits, because this dude hits the ball harder than almost anyone in baseball. The problem is it goes straight into the ground and ends up at third base, shortstop, or second base for a ground out. And sure, you can luck into some hits here and there from there, but as we know in today's league, you live and die by the home run, ball, the doubles. And yes, you want the singles and triples. I'm a small ball guy at heart too, but This is a guy who needs to figure out how to optimize his launch angles, optimize his swing path, optimize how he's making contact with that baseball so he's doing damage and not just putting the ball into the ground at 110 miles an hour.
Josh, I have to admit I'm becoming kind of a crusty old man as I get older because I've never been a fan of Wilson Contreras being a St. Louis Cardinal. I just don't feel like he plays the game the way that we expect Cardinals to play. Now, he's a great player. I don't want to confuse the two. He's a quality player, but the fact that reportedly he is open to now tearing up his no-trade clause, there is a chance St. Louis could move him. I would like to see Contreras moved and Burleson play for first base. Would that be a positive move for the future of the organization? I guess depending on what they get for Contreras, obviously, as well.
Yeah, I think that's the big question mark. Is there, and like Sonny Gray, which we saw before, and I actually would give Chaim Bloom, that's a huge, the Sonny Gray trade to me is a huge sign of how Chaim Bloom is operating differently than the Cardinals have before. Instead of just trying to move as much money as possible in that deal, they ate $20 million in order to get a major league arm with multiple years of control, plus one of the most high upside pitching prospects in all of baseball, for a guy that was Sonny Gray's still a good pitcher, but he's not that guy anymore that should be getting that kind of return, but they get the money to make it happen. I think they're going to try and do the same thing here with Wilson Contreras. They're not in a rush to move him. If they don't get the kind of offers they like, they'll hold on to him because, like Lars Nootbaar, they could flip him at the deadline. They could send him away in 2027 if we have a baseball season and not a lockout. They're not in a rush to move him, but they would like to do it because I think, to your point, Alec Burleson makes a lot of sense at first base. He improved in the corner outfield spots this past year. His numbers as a first baseman, though, offensively were some of the best in the league, but it is a pretty small sample size. So I think ideally to free up more playing time for the guys around them, to free up some cash flow, to get some, but most importantly, to get some prospects into the system, they would like to move him. I would keep an eye on the New York Mets after losing Pete Alonso to the Baltimore Orioles yesterday. It has already been chatter that the Mets and Cardinals are talking about a Wilson Contreras trade. Like Arenado last offseason, it's going to take the perfect situation for Wilson to waive his no-trade clause. So New York is something I would look at. Seattle is something I would look at. Milwaukee, if he wants to return with his brother and have some time there. But look at situations that are going to make sense for Wilson's family and make sense for him to contend.
Josh, are you confident Nolan Arenado will not be a Cardinal in 2026?
I'll say I'm more confident than I was last offseason, but if last offseason taught us anything, is that we got to wait and see.
Yeah.
I do think at this point, like, Chaim's been very open that they're not releasing Arenado, so that's not an option. But I think if you're trying to trade a guy, you're not going to openly tell people you're going to release them if no one trades for them. But I do think Nolan's expanding his list. We don't know what that looks like, but he knows that he's got to be less picky because he just hasn't been the same guy recently. So I do think whether it's a team like Boston or Seattle or a team like a contender with a third baseman, or Nolan could see an opportunity, and this is where I would, if you're asking me today where I think Nolan's going to play next year, I'm going to look at the Los Angeles Angels as an opportunity for him to go back to Southern California. No, it's not a great situation, but it's probably a little bit better than St. Louis right now, contending-wise, even if the organization's more of a mess. And he can maybe convince himself they can contend a little bit next year, but he gets for his family to return to his roots of Southern California. But I do think as the offseason goes on, it's like last year. We're going to have to wait for Alex Bregman to sign. There's still the Eugenio Suarez side of things. There's still Bo Bichette sitting out there. Once some of those names start to fall off the board, then teams might pivot toward Arenado. The Cardinals are not going to get anything in return for him. They're going to have to eat a ton of money to make it happen. But again, it clears the path for other young bats. Finally,
Josh, the catching position at the major league level, AAA, AA, it's very, very interesting right now. And the fact that Ivan Herrera looks like he's going to be a catcher once again in 2026. Give me your ranking, kind of your power rankings of the ceilings of the catchers right now in the Cardinals organization. Who would be your top three based on ceiling?
Oh, that's a tough question. I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm gonna put them into tiers because I think it's hard to put them. I guess at least for the first two names, Ivan Herrera, but then Raynel Rodriguez, who I don't know if many Cardinal fans know yet, is potentially one of the best prospects in all of baseball coming up right now. This dude is 19 years old, or is going to turn 19 soon, and has one of the most powerful bats in all of baseball. in the minor league levels. He was in the high medium to low A for the first time this past year, and scouts are looking at him, and this dude knows how to hit the baseball like no other as a teenager. And he has a chance to stick behind the plate. He also has defensive question marks like Ivan Herrera does, but in different types of ways. He's got a really good arm. He just needs to work on the game calling and walking side of things. But if this guy can stick behind the plate, he has a chance to be a true superstar. But Ivan Herrera's shown that ability at the plate already. It's just we know the defensive deficiencies for him. So I'd put them in the same category as Ivan Herrera, Reinel Rodriguez. Like, those two and J.J. Weatherhold are by far the most exciting players in the Cardinals organization right now. After that, I think Jimmy Crooks is really interesting. I don't know if I would call him like a potential star in the making, but could he be a regular left-handed bat behind the plate? Gets rave reviews for his game calling and ability to manage a pitching staff. That's a great thing. So I'd probably put it in that or Leonardo Bernal is probably in that same class with Crooks, but I think is a higher ceiling, a switch hitter. Again, won a Gold Glove for minor league levels last year and has a lot of upside in his bat. His AA numbers didn't look great this past year, but he was by far one of the youngest players at that level. So you assume if he's going to go into AAA next year, again, the numbers might not look great, but that happened to Ivan Herrera at different times where the Cardinals were very aggressive, moving him up the system. So he'd be facing way more advanced pitching than he normally would, but it ended up helping his career long term. And then for me, bottom of the pecking order here is Pedro Pages, but I do think he's a serviceable big league catcher who knows how to manage a pitching staff, not much in the bat. I assume the Cardinals will hold on to him for at least another 6 months or so until they kind of figure out which of their young catchers are ready. And then Pedro Pages is someone that they could potentially offload. But I think with the uncertainty of if Ivan can make it back to the catcher position and work behind the plate with how far Reinel is and if he could be a catcher, if Bernal is going to be ready next year. Jimmy Crooks, I mean, he got a taste of big league action last year, but clearly not ready to just hand the reins over to. I think having Pedro Pages is a nice floor to have as the Cardinals look at the ceiling of their other catchers.
Josh, where can Cardinal fans find you? I know you have a lot of live podcasts that people can lock on to via your Twitter account.
Yes, so our Dealing the Cards podcast, you can find that on any audio platforms as well as YouTube. And again, this coming Tuesday, December 16th, we're partnering with Brendan Donovan to raise money for the Kaufman Fund from 5 to 9 p.m. Central Time. We're going to have different guests like assistant GM Rob Cerfolio, Bernie Nicholas, Derek Wool, Katie Wu, who covered the Cardinals for years, former closer Trevor Rosenthal. It's going to be a really fun night. Hopefully we've got one more special guest we're going to announce soon, so you can find us at Dealing the Cards over there. Again, I'm the site expert over at Redbird Rants. You can find that online. And then on Twitter, JoshJaco98. Just appreciate the follows. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on over the next few weeks, so we'll be there to talk all about it.
You better believe it. Josh, fantastic job this morning. Really enjoyed that Cardinal conversation. And I have a feeling we're going to have a lot more to talk about very, very soon. So I really appreciate your time this morning. Have a great holiday.
Thank you, Darin. You as well.
That is Josh Jacobs. Fan-sided network, Redbird Rants. Check him out at JoshJaco98. That's Josh, Jaco98. More of the Huddle coming up. It is 8:28.